You ready? It's back. Hello and welcome to the return of Hardly Working Through It, the show about life, love, and labor, but not just that, where we take a deep dive into life, love, and labor. I'm SP.
And I'm Kelly, and it's been a long time since we've been here.
It's been a long time.
It's highly requested for it to come back. People have been asking.
That's true. We got numerous people asking when, if, and surprise.
Will it? Yeah. But we've been hardly working through life.
Yeah.
It's been hardly working in our life.
Yeah.
We've been dealing with floods and work and truly just crazy. I've been to more states in the last couple of weeks than I've been to all year long. So
it's been a lot.
We got time.
Yeah, we got some time now, which is funny because we don't have a tremendous amount of time. It is a busy fall and winter for business.
100%.
Hopefully we are done with the floods, the family tragedies, the car accidents, all of the things that have kept us from doing shows like this.
Yeah.
That have forced us to hardly go through it in life. Everything on the rocks except for our marriage, as far as you know. No, we're pretty good on that front. That's pretty good. But we're excited. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be kicking it off. The reason we're doing it right now is
pretty good. Marriage is pretty good.
It's fine.
It's pretty good.
Well,
so what's the question? I'm just kidding. Directly about marriage.
It really is. You'll hear more about how good or bad our marriage is in just a moment when we talk about what we're going to be talking about. But before then, I want to let you know we're going to be doing Hardly Working Through It each and every week, at least up until Hardly Holidays. We haven't even talked about this on Hardly Working. So if you're listening to it now, this right now, you're getting a little inside dope. Also, if you've joined us since the flood of TikTok followers and you're like, I don't even know what Hardly Working Through It is, really fast. We keep Hardly Working fun, light, fresh, fast moving. Literate.
Words, go.
Well spoken. Hardly Working Through It, we designed a year ago to talk about deeper stuff, real like relationship stuff. If you don't know this about us because you're just joining recently, we're married. We have a kid. It's my kid. It's Kelly's step kid because I was married before. We do a 4-person co-parenting thing, so there's a lot to talk about with that. And so much more about business and life and love and all of that. And so this is a show where we really dig into it, and I'm excited to jump into it. It's definitely a more, not serious like somber, but it's just more serious topics, including today's topic, which to kick it off, I figured we'd ease us in, get to know us a little bit more, and compare to other people, places, spaces you might know. But today, we're answering who should do what in a marriage? Do you like how I just picked it up? I'm a professional host. A professional.
So he says.
We're answering the question, who should do what in a marriage?
Well, he should do everything.
Well,
Problem solved. End of podcast.
Done
Bye.
deal.
See you later. Bye.
Well, that would be really bad news based on the research that has been done in the world about who does what in successful marriage. I haven't, but accredited organizations have, and I have said research to talk about that.
That's what I was asking.
Yes.
Okay.
Have I done the research to find research?
No.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I have. Interestingly enough, as we started kind of talking about this topic, Kelly and I, leading into this week, it's a unique place for me to be because, as I said earlier, I have been married before. I've had
practice marriage.
Which actually, boy, calling it a practice marriage, I don't say it to put anybody down, but it really does help you connect with other people who have been married before too. And they hear that, they're like, oh my God, me too. I had a practice marriage too. They now have a word for it. And now it doesn't feel like a big failure in your life. It feels like something people go through.
Yeah.
That was really cool this week for us because it really helped on a professional level to book us some really cool events. Anyway, I am uniquely qualified to talk about this because I've been in 2 different marriages and I've had 2 different marriage experiences. But what do you think? Are there certain things, Kelly, in a marriage, ours or otherwise, that since we are a man and a woman, I'm going to kind of frame it in that. I understand that not every marriage is like that, and it's totally cool. It's a safe place and a safe space for everybody. But just based on our experience, we're talking about a woman and a man because that's who we are.
That's how
is
we
there
identify.
some stuff that you should be doing versus me doing? Is there something that only one partner should do and not the other? What do you think?
It's a lot of lead up to that. Also, I would love to circle back at some point in time once we've started talking to see if what you what
Doubt
you've
it.
taken on has changed from your first marriage to your second marriage.
Whoa, in terms of responsibilities?
Yeah, because I think that's an interesting. I don't know. the
You know,
answer.
we'll have to go through some specifics to see. And to kind of frame the question too, we're talking about like daily life, weekly life, marriage life, responsibilities, chores, dynamics, all that kind of stuff within the question of who should be responsible for what in a marriage or who should do what in a marriage. We
Yeah.
know that the normal view, like our parents and their parents, was like the women are the homemakers and the men are the breadwinners. Is that the way it still should be? Is it the way with us? Yes, but find out why. I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh, I was like, it's like 5 lead ups just to get into the podcast today.
It's true.
You're hosting the crap out of this.
I know. I promised to turn it off.
It's okay. You can just be you.
I turned it off.
I think it's an interesting question to ask. We did talk about this a little bit. So like leading into this week, which we shouldn't have, that's our biggest problem is that we talk all the time. So we do talk about things. It is an interesting question because both of us grew up in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And there are very
the Christian church.
And within the Christian church, there are very specific roles that maybe are implied.
They're gender
normative
roles within a relationship.
Yeah. That are like implied, maybe not always taught on, but like when you like meet with someone of the same gender that's older than you, like a mentor, they're like, yeah, this is what the woman does. This is what the man does. At least that's my experience.
I think it's implied, but also some of it is direct.
Some of it is.
How many sermons have you heard that's like
The woman must submit.
Yeah, it's so funny because, of course, you would have the woman's perspective because I was going to say the man is supposed to be the leader of the household and lead his wife.
Of course, because it was what was taught to each of us.
Exactly.
But both of those things are true. Like I was taught growing up that the woman should submit
Right.
to the husband and to his needs and wants and desires and his plan for the family. You were taught
that the man needs to be the leader spiritually, financially, everything ending in LLY of the family. Also, to your question earlier, can you guess how that part of the marriage dynamic played out in my first marriage?
I'm sure that she did not. She was like, no, you will not lead. Like, I will lead us.
Well, I mean, really, I was asking, do you think it was those gender normative things?
No, I don't. Knowing her, I do not.
And it wasn't. And I think that was actually surprisingly healthy and progressive, I guess, in terms of the culture that we were in. So I was surprised that dynamic was actually kind of similar instead of just totally,
Which is great.
Very different in the way that it played out.
Yeah.
But similar in the way that it was balanced.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I do think that's an interesting thing. And I think that just goes to show who you are.
I'm pretty great.
You are pretty great. But yeah, I think so. I think it's interesting when you talk about those gender norms because I never really fell into that realm. I was like, what do you mean submit?
Really? Your parents weren't more gender normative? Kind of. Your dad always union electrician on the road early mornings. Your mom taking care of the kids maybe a bit more.
Yeah. Yes. In that sense, my mom was a stay-at-home mom for a little bit of time and then like worked 3 days and was home 2 days or something, like some mix of that for a while and really did take care of the kids. Like that really was what she did. But I've always looked at my parents as a team. And they very much are. And they kind of share the responsibility.
I met all of you and both of your siblings as adults, so I have no idea what that dynamic was
like I said, my mom did like stay home with us and like make sure we were taken care of and make the lunch and pick us up from school and did all that stuff.
Yeah.
But my dad did work in LA as an electrician or early, like from like normal 9 to 5, but early in the morning shift, like long hours and stuff. And he was the one who made more money.
Yeah. I grew up without really my dad contributing. So my mom was not a stay-at-home mom at all.
No.
Somehow she managed to do all of the things, but also be an attorney and be a law school teacher and a high school teacher when I was in high school. It was, she did it all. So I didn't have the normal gender-specific roles to see either.
Yeah.
But I also didn't get to a church until middle school.
Same. I mean, I got to like really, really late, like 4th grade.
Yeah. Interesting. I have some things that I brought in to not only one for people to see kind of how we break down what we do.
Yeah.
In terms of like chores and responsibilities.
Yeah.
I have a list and we can be like, who does what? But also I wanted to base this on some research and some facts too. So what was intriguing to me was to see, is there a correlation between marriages that have normal, like this person does all the house stuff and this person earns the money, versus there's an even distribution of both things between the partnership. If there's some type of data in terms of who stays together and who gets divorced, and there is. So I want to talk about that. Do you want to talk about that first? Or do you want to break down our stuff?
Well, I think we should break down our stuff because I think, I don't know. What do you think is best?
Let's start with a little bit of the research.
Okay, let's do
So
it.
I asked that question. Let me see if I can formulate it a little better. I know half the people are like, we understand what you're saying. But basically what I'm saying is it more likely to get divorced if you split up everything kind of more evenly, or are you more likely to get divorced if you have things separate and defined? It landed basically where I thought it was going to, which is great because I was looking for this. But let me tell you about two things here. Let me see. A Norwegian study in 2012 found that couples who share household chores equally are less likely to divorce than those in which the woman does most of the housework. It suggested that an equitable division of labor is often associated with modern, more flexible views on marriage and gender roles, which are linked to lower divorce rates. A Pew Research Center poll says that it indicated that for many couples, a fair distribution of chores is one of the key components of a happy marriage. So it's not even about necessarily divorce in this specific instance.
Yeah.
It's just, are you going to enjoy your relationship and have a happy marriage?
Yeah.
So they say, that's one of the key components of a happy marriage. In fact, in surveys on marital satisfaction, sharing household responsibilities is often cited as important as financial security in child rearing responsibilities. One of the things that if you do the research, one of the biggest reasons couples divorce is because of financial reasons.
Yeah.
And then of course, extramarital things and stuff like that. But one of the highest ones is financial discrepancies.
Dang.
Who uses the money, who earns the money, it's my money, you get to use it when I say all that kind of stuff. But this is saying that all of that is just as high of an indicator as how you distribute the work in the relationship. We're calling it chores, but it's the work. Who's driving the kid to school? Who's doing the homework? Who's making dinner? Who's buying the groceries for dinner? Who's making money and bringing it in? Who's cleaning the house? All of that stuff. All of that. Who's responsible for what? It's all of that stuff. So I was excited to see that part of it is just as important in terms of marriage satisfaction and longevity.
Yeah.
Will you or won't you get divorced?
Yeah.
As any of these other factors. So I was really excited to see that this is actually good stuff. If you can find a way with you and your partner, or in our case with us, to divide some of that, not only are you going to last longer, but you'll be happier as you're lasting through it. Couple more things that jumped out. Equitable division of chores and relationship satisfaction, increased relationship satisfaction, improved communication and partnership, and impact on gender roles and expectations, of course. There's higher divorce rates in traditional gender roles in marriages like that, which I thought was interesting. That I understand that we kind of broke it down like you're less likely to get divorced if you do some of the work rather than throwing it on your spouse. But to say that there's a higher divorce risk for the couples that have a more traditional style marriage right now was interesting data for me.
Makes sense to me.
And it contributes, they say, to a perception of inequality, which I think is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of data there. Let's break down how we do some of this stuff, just so people can be like, are they just talking?
We are just talking.
Let me throw some things out.
Okay, you have a list.
Who does the grocery shopping?
I do.
Who does the cooking?
I do.
Okay.
Most of the time.
And then who does everything else?
I do. Just kidding, you do. Not everything else. That's not how it breaks down.
Well, I do have a list here of things. We can go
Okay.
back and forth real quick. Cooking, you mentioned, is generally you.
There are
tonight
certain
it's
things. Yeah, like so we're doing steak night tonight. I'm not doing it. You're making steak, but I'll do the accessories.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't. But tonight, well, I'm sure you're talking about
The
whatever
veggies
veggies you
and
want
the
to do.
salad we're gonna have.
Yeah.
The salad.
So cooking, washing dishes.
It's pretty shared, but
Yeah.
I would say like in terms like normally in our household, if I make the dinner, you're the one. I will clean as I go.
Yeah.
It's like a big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that I have, I'll try to rinse or put it in the sink or put it in the dishwasher.
Mm-hmm.
But then when dinner is done, you will normally, it's a labor of love. Well, it's just a love. It's not a labor of love.
It depends on the night.
It's true. But you will normally do the dishes.
Mm-hmm. Kelly is really great at cleaning as she goes, which is helpful for the person doing the dishes later. But yes, that often falls to me.
Yeah. But then like normal dishes throughout the week, we'll just do them.
Whoever sees it does it. Yeah.
Yeah, including Brooklyn, who has started to put stuff into the dishwasher.
Which is nice. I'll typically load and unload the dishwasher though.
Yeah, but like it's not like your job. If you were like, this person's the one who does the dishes, we don't have like that rule.
Yeah. No, not at all.
For this. Like, it's just like whoever.
I have a feeling, you mentioned we talked about this, but we didn't talk about any of this stuff.
No.
We talked about none of this. I have a feeling that we might get to this point where we're like, yeah, there's some things that you do, there's some things that I do. But I think the reason why we feel happy and content is that what you just said, like if we see something, we'll
just do it.
Regardless of whose quote unquote
job
like
it is.
I have a feeling that might be where we land, but we'll see. Who feeds our pets?
If you're talking about our kid, I do. I'm just kidding. We don't have any pets, but
no, I put that on the list because for some people that is the thing, and not just feeding the pets, but cleaning up the.
Probably be me.
You think so? Judging off of the pet stuff, yeah.
Because I would want the pet.
Well, in the other house, Brooklyn, our kid, has to clean up the dog poop and stuff. Yeah.
So it'd be Brooklyn. Yeah. Just kidding.
So make your kid do it. Taking out the trash?
That's a predominantly you thing.
Predominantly me.
I will do it with you when you need help, but for the
why
most
don't
part,
we recycle?
We do recycle.
Yeah, and we recycle a lot.
Yeah.
I really thought you'd jump on that.
We do recycle.
No, I'm proud of us with the amount that we recycle, especially because our dumpsters for trash is like a quarter mile away.
100%.
Talk about a labor of love.
Yeah, but you trash is predominantly you, and I do kind of put that on you. I'm like, yeah, you're responsible for the trash.
True.
But I will take it out with you.
Oh yeah,
and I also will recycle and like when it comes to like putting stuff in the recycle, like I will collect everything and put it in there and be like, hey, it's ready to go out.
Yeah. How about sweeping and vacuuming?
I would say that's both of us, but I tend to pop out the vacuum. I just did it yesterday. I was like, I'm vacuuming the kitchen. It was the second time this week that I vacuumed the kitchen.
I disagree. I think I vacuum way more than you do.
I think
way
it's
more,
shared.
Especially when we used to have carpet.
For sure, I hated vacuuming that carpet.
I don't know that you ever did.
Hated
it was
vacuum.
Only me.
It's because the vacuum really sucked.
That's what they do. That's literally their job.
I knew you were going to do that. No, but the vacuum was not great. And our carpet was like a really hefty shag carpet that was in the house. Mm-hmm. So it was just not a great situation. And truly, I hate it. But I did sweep a lot. I would sweep the tile.
True.
So
you guys, we had horrible shag carpet and horrible orange tile.
Here's the deal.
It's so much better now.
I do think that you do vacuum, but I do think this is something that we share more so than I think you notice because I tend to vacuum more now, especially because I can see it on the wood or in the kitchen. Like truly, I'll go in and be like, I'm going to pull everything out and vacuum the kitchen really quick. And then I'll like wipe down the mat.
Yeah. I will say carpet is very handy for those little fibers and stuff.
I know that you just see everywhere.
We see them everywhere on our floors now because we have wood floors, like light wood floors, and I'm like, "What? I just vacuumed this."
But I do think it's shared, and I have vacuumed twice this week, which I don't know that you were there for one of the times that I did it.
I must not have been.
But I do pull it out and do that. Anyways,
what about making the bed?
That's predominantly me.
Yeah,
but you do it as well when you want to make me happy.
Yeah, that's true. I like the way the bedroom looks with a bed made.
I know.
I don't really value making the bed.
I do.
I don't have a high value on that.
I do because it makes pulls the room together to make it feel.
Well, what do you think? What happens in a situation like this in general where one person in a relationship really values something and the other person doesn't? Is that the responsibility of the person who values it to make it happen?
Yeah, I do. But also when you talk about marriage, a big part of marriage, right, is setting expectations between the other person and then meeting in the middle and compromising. And so like, if I really valued the bed being made, then I would expect it to be a low level priority for you to make that happen with me at times. But like I would take on the responsibility of like, it's something that I do, so I'm going to do it with the expectation that you're going to help or be around to do it if I can't get to it, because it is a value. In the same way that like yours may be like, hey, I'm trying to think of something that's like real. Oh, you're like, oh, hey, I really like when the countertops aren't covered in stuff. And so,
oh yeah, I really value that.
You really hate that. And so like I do, I'm not great at it, but I do try to make sure that I clean them off when I can.
Yeah.
Like if I notice it gets really messy or something's going on, like I will clean stuff off because I know that it's a priority to you or something that you value and something that makes you feel less anxious.
I'm going to talk a couple times about my therapist and my sessions with her. Because it's relevant to this. I said this to her in regards to the house this week. I said, like, when I get anxious or stressed, you've heard me say this so much, when my external environment is crazy, it magnifies the craziness of my internal environment.
I feel that way at times too.
Totally.
Not as often as you do, because I can get lost into TV shows and video games, but
I can't.
You know me, sometimes you'll be like, are you okay? And I'm like, yes. But I'm just like cleaning with my head down somewhere. And you're normally like, come over and give me a hug, because they're like, it's okay. And
Yeah. And you're like,
but it makes me feel better. I'm
you're
like,
like,
I'm not
let
mad.
her clean.
No, I'm like, it doesn't, I'm fine. I just need to clean.
How about laundry?
That's you, all you, dog.
I know, and boy, do we have
But
a lot of laundry
I do
between the three of us.
fold
And
laundry.
we don't have laundry in our
unit
house.
now.
So we have to carry it. Thankfully, in where we live, there's like a bunch of laundry machines. We don't have to travel with it, but it is a pain.
This is what I think I realized, and what I think we've talked about before. If our trash cans were located in a side yard that was a couple of feet away, and if our laundry was in our house, I think it would
be different.
It would be more of a shared thing that we do. I think it's because it has to be carried somewhere that I go, well, that's you. I don't know why.
She's a feminist until things get heavy.
True, but I will fold laundry with you and hang up our hangs. Hang up our hang dries.
You know, some unpapa pins hanging the hangs.
Hanging clothes.
You do help with that for sure.
I'm in it with
Mostly
the
because
laundry.
most of that clothes are yours.
That's true, but I'm
that
in
are
it.
wet and need to be hung.
I am in it with the laundry with you.
Yeah.
I just don't want to carry it to the laundry
or
carry the trash to the trash can because it's heavy.
Because she's already
so
too
heavy and I'm so
worn down from
weak.
carrying the weight of our whole marriage on her shoulders.
right.
She can't be
here.
expected to carry anything else.
Right.
I skipped this one, and I want to ask as I kind of wrap up. There's more things, but in the
let's
first
go
list
through
that I have, tidying up
You.
the house.
Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you.
You're very good at tidying up. I'm very good at, I can.
That's the end of that thought.
I can tidy up. And I do like when things are clean, but I can get more overwhelmed than you can, more easily.
Would you say the cleanliness of a house is not as high of a priority for you as it is for me?
Between you and I would say yes, that you have a higher priority on cleanliness of the house. But what I don't want people to misconstrue is that it's not that I don't want my house to be cleanly. You just have a very high standard for what that is for you. You are pretty meticulous in like wanting and like the way you like in the cleanliness. No, truly, like like for instance, I just stop giving me those looks. I see them. You do have a problem when things are on countertops. And that really gets you, where I can look at a countertop and be like, oh, like that's going to go to the car tomorrow and that's there because of this
True.
and that's because of that, where you can't necessarily look at it and see that most time because it's my stuff, but you can't.
Well, because I'm like, how come every flat surface
Yeah.
is covered in things? I can't put the one thing that I need to put down somewhere. I can't put it down.
True. But I'm like, oh, I have that because I'm working on this thing and then I'll need to go over there to put that onto the photo booth. And that thing is going to go to the car because I need to make those returns tomorrow. And that is Brooklyn's thing for school. And this is that. Like, so it's not that I don't have a value for it. I think my brain thinks about it in that way of like, most of the time I'm using the countertop for things that I am doing or using. And you are not always brought into those things. So you just look around and go, well, the countertop's full. And I'm like, okay, well, let me walk you through. And then you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Is there any way we can move something off? So does that answer the question?
It does.
It's like in my mind, I'm like, I know it's going to be clean tomorrow when I take those things there. And so I don't have a high value on it right this moment to take it because why am I going to move it somewhere just to move it back, just to move it out? Does that make sense?
That's how I feel about making the bed.
Yeah. Because we're going to get right back into it.
As soon as humanly possible.
But it looks so nice. And we hang out in our room way more now that we've redone our house.
I know. I like it in there.
I know.
A few things I want to say. I want to
I'm
jump
not a
on.
dirty person. I think that's what I just want to be communicated is I
And-
don't feel that way.
And when I get to this point that I'm holding on to here, it will alleviate that fear for you. But first, I wanted to say, because it has to do with this, like, let's say I asked you, like, whose responsibility is it if one person has a higher priority of something and the others doesn't?
Yeah.
A therapist that I had during my first marriage told us that if you are going to, let's take loading the dishwasher, for instance, if you're going to say, like, that's going to be your responsibility, not mine. You have to relinquish control of how the work is done.
Yes, I've heard that before.
Yeah, and I think that's a key
You
element
can't
to
be
some
up
of
to
that
the
stuff.
standard that you want.
Yeah, it's like if you're going to tell me I have to do this, and you also can't say I have to do it your way. If you want it done your way, you can do it. And that's a tough thing to let go of. But if you can't let go of it, and that person's willing to do that thing for you, just let it be.
Yeah.
Let it be. So I wanted to say that in regards to what we talked about earlier. To your point, you are very much not a dirty person. You are a very cleanly person as a human, as a person, and all other ways. I was talking to my therapist about this week, and somehow it came up, the kind of like cleanliness or cluttered nature of homes. And I said, like, you talk to people all the time. Like, is this a millennial thing? Not having as high of a priority about how put together or neat your house is as the generation before us, like as our parents. Because I don't know about you, but growing up, pretty much, pretty much someone could come over at any moment and the house would be ready for them. It might not be like ready to seat 100 people, but there wouldn't be blankets like strewn on the couch and different things like that we do.
Yeah.
And she was essentially, she talked a little bit about her story, which is not mine to share. I don't know ethically if I can even talk about that, but she talked about some of the experience she's had with people. And she said, part of it is generational. Part of it is like with us as this generation of parents, like we just value different things. She said, like, dads are getting way more time with their kids than historically they ever had. And sometimes that's at the, what would you call it?
Expense.
The expense. Yeah. The expense of cleaning the house. She also said with normative gender roles being different than what they are, there's no specific person in charge of doing certain things. So it's just not as much as a value as it was before. Yeah. And it's funny because I was in our awesome corner. We have this cool, cute nook in our bedroom.
That's so great.
We film a lot of stuff there.
Kind of looks like this, my corner.
Yeah, it looks a lot like Kelly's corner. But I was like, what is it? Because I took my computer and I turned it. I was like, if I turn you right over here, you see a vanity that's just covered in stuff.
Yeah.
Granted, it's all stuff that's supposed to be on a vanity. And she started laughing. She's like, I'm the same way too. Like, that's just kind of what it is. But then we have friends like God lover, Simone, whose house is always amazing.
Beautiful and ready for people to come in.
Always.
And she has a baby.
I don't
know how you do it.
We
talk about this a lot because Pat always always goes like, Simone's house is always ready for people to come over. Like, and why can't our house be that way? He doesn't mean it like that, but I'm like,
why our house can't? Because it's always flooded.
That's true. But I do say it to you. I say, but people with more, I mean, she had this when she had her 2-bedroom.
She had what? The same like
value, like clean stuff. But I always say it's because we only have a couple of rooms and we are living in all of the rooms that we have, and we don't have an extra room for all of the businesses that we run.
I was going to say,
and so it explodes into our actual life versus like having a set place. And that is what my mom always taught me. So you have a set place for things. And we've talked about this a lot, but what happens when you don't have a set place for things because things come in and out so often, or because you need it sometimes, but not all the time, and you don't want it to live in the house, so you don't make a set place for it in the house.
That's what I was going to say too. Is like Southern California and Los Angeles specifically is one of the most expensive places to live in 100%. The country. San Diego, San Francisco, New York, LA, those. So the downside is if you're going to live in LA, you have to have you're probably going to have a smaller space because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
And when you're running 1 or 2 more, 3, whatever businesses from your house, it just takes over your space.
Oh yeah.
So I get that as much as I'd love everything to be. Exactly,
I also realized during our first flood how much stuff we actually have. Him and I are both in different ways. Like, we should keep that because we might use that whenever we spend money. And it's not in the same ways because there are certain things that I'm like, I want to keep that. And he's like, no, just throw it away. We'll buy a new one. And then certain things that I'm like, I don't want to keep that. And he's like, well, Brooklyn might want it one day. Mm-hmm. And so we are bad at that. And I think that is a millennial thing. I think we're going to hold on to like the nostalgic pieces of like,
there is a lot of.
But we threw away so much stuff during the first flood. I was like, I don't need to hold on to anything.
We didn't throw away a lot of stuff in the second flood, but we did get rid of a lot of clothes, which I think wasn't because they were wet, but
we just went through our
clothes.
Just
happened to be that way.
Spring cleaning in the fall.
I agree. We definitely hold on to things. And that's what happens too when you merge lives together.
Oh, yeah.
You bring all your stuff, I bring all mine. We have a kid that's got her stuff, way more stuff than I think a kid needs.
She needs, yeah.
What I want to do real quick, we didn't mention it, but we do want to keep these Hardly Working Through. It's a little bit shorter than the normal Hardly Workings.
Fun.
Sorry, we're going to end it. I'm just kidding. No, we got plenty of time. But I also don't want to just ramble on.
For sure. Okay,
so I want to kind of go through some of these ones that are kind of big, less specific.
I'm ready.
Stop, answer it, but also stop me if you want to talk about in depth some of them. Okay. Cleaning windows, cleaning appliances.
That's me.
Not windows, but appliances.
I mean, we only have 2 windows in our house.
That's not true.
And a big, sliding glass door.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
Our whole house has 2 windows.
And the last time we cleaned a window, there was a giant Black Widow that I made you go kill.
That's true. It was outside.
It
Don't worry,
freaked
everybody.
me out,
Yeah, it was
though. I was
gross.
like, what is that thing that I see in my peripheral?
How about decluttering closets?
That's both of us. Right now, we're in that big space right now. But I am really pushing. I'm like, let's clean the top of them. Let's make more spaces. Get rid of your very first
set of turntables
that you haven't
Actual
used
vinyl
ever
turntables.
since I've known you.
If anyone wants them, let me know. Checking and cleaning air vents.
That's you.
me.
Yeah,
Changing
right.
bedding.
Both of us.
Because it's so much easier with a second person. I will never, ever fold a fitted sheet by myself.
No.
And when I do it with a person, I will always do it badly. Deep cleaning furniture. I'm not gonna lie.
Are you talking about like vacuum it?
We vacuum the couches.
I tend to vacuum
and
the
stuff,
couch. You do too.
that's
I think
it.
both do. Yeah. How else do you? I mean, I guess wiping down tables and stuff like that. I tend to do that, but
This is a big one. Organizing finances.
I do that.
Kelly does that.
I enjoy it though.
Yeah.
This is the same thing with cooking. Like I cook not because it's a gender normative
expected
thing
or whatever. Yeah.
It's because I truly enjoy it, and you've said this to me before. I don't know how I do it, but I will come up with an idea and be like, oh yeah, all the stuff. I'll look in our fridge and be like, all this stuff will be good together. Let's do it. Oh, I should add this. I really enjoy cooking.
Yeah, and
Like
I
a
love
lot. It brings me a lot of joy and a lot
It's a
of
big
peace.
difference than from my first marriage. So thank you.
You're welcome. And it's all good, hopefully, is what I've been told by my daughter and my husband, and my friends. So I'm good with that.
There's a lot of things that I would lie about to keep your self-esteem.
This is not one of those.
Cooking's not one of them.
I know.
And I'm also joking. I would never lie to keep your
Thank you.
self-esteem. I will be brutally honest with you.
Thank you. But finances are me. I find joy in it. I am a crazy psycho person I do track all of the events that we have, how much money we made, where it came from.
I can't spend
when
a
we
dollar
got
without her
paid.
knowing it.
Yeah,
that's
that's not true. I also send out all the invoices and the contracts and make sure that we get paid and all those things. But I enjoy those things and I enjoy tracking. I was also the one who made you get your very first savings account as well as open up a credit card.
Yeah, can you believe that? When I was in my mid-20s and single, I hadn't had a credit card yet.
Even in your first marriage. Even in your first marriage, you didn't have a credit.
Ramsey said never to have a credit card.
I know, but you didn't again. Even in your first marriage, you didn't have a credit card.
I know because
I was like,
the
what about your
financial
credit
freedom
score?
course at the church I worked
Yeah, I
at
know.
was like, you should only have cash because of the apocalypse. They didn't say that part, but it kind of felt like it was implied. Anyway, there's some good stuff out of that, but most of it I would just leave behind.
That's true. My mom also worked at a bank for the majority of my growing up. And so I also think there's a piece of that. Like I learned how to balance a checkbook quite young. Not that that matters anymore, but I did learn how to balance a checkbook and have had a checkbook. But I also am have diversified our monies, which is a big deal to my mom to diversify. But I have the two IRAs.
Yeah.
We have multiple savings accounts. At any given time, I probably have a couple $100 around me or near me in cash for some weird. I know. I
try 10x that.
Yeah.
And then maybe like 3 or 4x that number.
No, I do like having cash on me. I am
You are
the
a
one.
crazy cash lady.
I know. I am the one that has the ones when you're like, hey, do you have any ones on you for valet for this gig I'm doing? I'm like, yep, take it. Like it's in my wallet. You know where it is.
Yep.
I am that person. I like to be on top of finances. I like to have extra cash on me. I like to know what we're doing. I like to earn points on the credit cards. I like to use them for different things. I really, really, really enjoy it.
Here's what I love about that
Crazy
too.
psycho achiever thing.
But I love that. It's really beneficial to our relationship.
Thanks, babe.
Because I really, really, really like making the money.
I know.
And you really, really like organizing and spending the money.
I do like spending the money, but I also like having a high yield savings account that gets us 4.25% interest.
Pretty good.
Or something like that.
But here's the deal. I also like doing the things that spend the money. I like going out to dinners, going on like trips and stuff. I like taking friends out and paying for meals. Like I have a lot of joy in that. I don't want to or need to see the bill.
No.
And you're usually like, I can take care of that.
I'll take care of it.
I know that I've brought in enough cash to make whatever it is happen.
Yeah.
But I also know like when we go out to like a crazy dinner and I'm like, was that $500? Like I had so much better of a time before that.
Oh yeah. I'm not
I had a great time. And now the whole thing, I'll never be happy.
And let's be clear. It's been a long time since we spent that much money on a dinner, and it was
guys, that has happened.
But it's with us and friends.
Actually, I don't think
like,
that. I think that's too high. I don't think we've ever spent that much money.
Yeah, no. But it's with us and friends that will be like, oh, we'll pick it up or whatever.
Or if you accidentally go with a big group and you're like, I got this.
And you
you're
guys
like,
can all Venmo
"Whoa."
me later or whatever. I'm like, well, I
That's how it
guess I'm
should go.
taking it on. Yeah. But yeah, I do love the finances. And I am a helper on the Enneagram. I'm a 2, but I'm a wing 3, which is an achiever. And so there is a piece of me, especially as I've started my own business, that I like to see how I'm achieving. This has been a big year. I told you, I said every month I've made at least 4K. At least.
Which is awesome.
If not more, which is a big deal.
Because it's more than you were making when you worked 40 hours a week.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, after taxes, it equals out
Yeah.
just about the same. But all that to say, like I like knowing those things, and I like seeing it. I like seeing it where it came from, and knowing like what my busiest months were and all those things. It's a very exciting, fun.
That's
thing
the
for
data
me.
that you like.
I do like
Yeah,
that data a
that
lot,
makes
so it's very
sense.
fun for me. And I like doing taxes at the end of the year, where you go through your expenses and you put them all in. I have like a spreadsheet.
Oh, you're a
Where I
big
do that.
weirdo.
I know.
So weird. Who likes
And
taxes?
you could go back and look at our year for as long as we've been married and see how much money we've made.
Honestly, that is one cool thing I like about our relationship. It's the only thing, just the one. No,
Only
it's
this one.
One of
This
many
one
things I
thing.
like. But we keep a record of things. Like
Yeah.
we have a podcast. I can know exactly what I was doing a year ago by listening or watching our podcast.
Yeah.
But even our top knots, if you weren't with us last year for the end of Harley Holidays, every year we do our top 10 moments and our bottom 10 moments from the
Yeah.
whole year. It's a great way to look back at the year and to set some vision for the next year. But we keep that in a shared like Google Drive or whatever.
Yeah.
So what we also do is we look back at last year's and go, can you believe that was last year?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. So we have this like history of who we are and what we've done and what's been fun and what's
Yeah.
been awful and all
We
that
like
kind of stuff.
comparing ourselves to ourselves.
That person used to be great. Now we're even better.
No, but we do like that. We're pretty cool.
Yeah, it just goes to your point of like you can look at our taxes and be like, here's all
yeah.
the stuff.
What's the next ones?
Well, yeah, I'll jump through a few. Deep cleaning. I actually think deep cleaning is more you.
Yeah.
I kind of am more of the day-to-day cleaner. You're the one who's like, these mirrors in the bathroom need to be Windexed and
I
wiped
just
down.
did it the other day. And
Yeah.
I was like, you need to start wiping down your beard hair. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Do I remember?
You
Yes.
can't see it on our thing because our countertop in our bathroom is like black
Like a gray, black
speckled. It's like
marble
gray
kind of
black
thing?
speckled. And so it looks clean. And then I'll go and wipe it and be like, his beard.
Yeah, his beard's
He
everywhere.
must have just shaved.
It's here.
No, but I
It's
do.
there.
It's something happens to me where I'll look at something and be like, that has to be cleaned.
Yeah.
The bathtub, the underneath the toilet, the sink.
I do that with a stovetop
mirror.
though. I'm like, I gotta get.
I
in
do the
here.
stovetop too, though. I'm even the other day I was like, I'm listening to you, but I'm freaking cleaning this thing. I do enjoy it.
Yeah. Next is home maintenance, which is more me.
That's you.
Which is bad because we had a house flood last week, which could have been prevented
Home
with
maintenance.
some home maintenance, but we just didn't know. It wasn't like it was neglected. We just had
Mm-hmm.
no idea. Other things, car maintenance, pretty even. Although it's really just whoever's there. We
Yeah.
have 2 cars, but we usually use just one car for work and one car for business.
My car tells me.
Personal. Yeah.
So it's kind of that. But as far as like paying for our registration and stuff, I normally do that.
That's most
That's
of
more
this-
financial, I guess.
Yeah, that's most of the stuff on the list. One thing I wanted to talk about when you were talking about the finances piece of it is that in my life, interestingly enough, my dad like never had money ever. And granted, keep in mind, my parents split when I was really young, like 4. But like there was times that I still remember where my dad would be like, "All right, buddy, love you. I'm gonna leave. Hey, can I borrow some money? I don't have any cash on me." This was still before credit cards were really like used for everything.
Probably thank goodness.
And I would like I had this little, it was like this thin metal container that used to have like some fancy chocolate bars in it.
Yeah.
And that's for some reason what my mom gave me to keep my coins and my dollars.
Why
and I
not?
like opened it up and I gave him $10 and he gave me $4 back at some other point or $6. He either still owes me $4 or $6. That's what I'm getting at.
He's dead, so
That
I don't
it
think
will
you're getting
be-
it back.
It will be hard. I'll have to get it from his next of kin, which is me, I guess. No, I'll get it from my sister.
There
You're
you
like,
go.
where's my money? But my dad like never had any money ever. My mom, on the other hand,
Oh, yeah.
has worked her ass off to not only provide and be basically a single parent forever,
Yeah.
but like to accumulate
Yeah.
money.
Nurse, lawyer, teacher.
Economist, teacher,
What'd you say?
economist. She's
Oh.
got an economics degree from UCLA.
I thought you said communist, and I said what? Economist.
No, but it's interesting because I guess I grew up in non-gender conforming roles.
Yeah, because your mom
in
did
terms
it
of
all.
finances. Yeah. And if I have not said it on the show, I'm so grateful that you take on those things
Thanks, babe.
because not having to juggle the administrative parts. 'Cause when we think of finances, at least for us, it really is more of a business thing. It's less of like it's this much for electricity. It's more like, how much money am I bringing in, and then how much is going out based on what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we tie it up with business. So for me, it feels a bit more like the administrative part of our business, sending the contracts, getting the deposits. You do all of the administrative stuff, which I can do and did for years. It's just not what I'm wired to do and not what I find a ton of joy in.
Yeah.
So for me, being able to go do the stuff that I'm good at, because in a better way, because you're taking on those things, is such a gift to me, and then by proxy to all of us.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think that's kind of where we've landed. Like, I have two things. I know that we're whatever. We have landed on the things that bring us joy, or the things that like. Yeah, the things that bring us joy, whether in the moment because it's fun to do, or like long term because it makes us feel joyful in the space that we're in. And like, I really appreciate that. Like, if I didn't enjoy cooking as much as I do, I know that you would help out with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the same
and
way.
there's seasons where I do. And
For
sometimes that's by going and picking up food. Like,
yeah, there are some days that I'm like, I know I have stuff, but I just can't. And you're like, I'm going to take care of it.
Yeah.
And I know that about you. And I think that's what makes us great, is like, at the end of the day, it's not like, well, sorry that you don't feel good today, or sorry that like you've had a bad day and that you've been crying or whatever, but like, where's my dinner?
Yeah.
And why isn't it made? It's like, oh my goodness, let me take care of you and make this
when
happen.
I get home from a long day of work that I didn't do because I don't have a 9 to 5, I expect my dinner
That's
here.
right. But here's what I'll say too, and this is what I've learned, and I think it is just learning about yourself, because what I also know about myself, and you know this too, is I don't like to feel alone in things.
Yeah.
Like, there are times that I am making dinner and you might be doing something on the couch or something like that, and I will look at you. I've learned now, and you know too, that instead of getting upset, I'll be like, hey, can you just come sit with me? Like, I don't need you to do anything. I just don't want to feel alone. Like,
I just need a buddy over here.
Yeah, because I think when you start to feel taken advantage of, or that's not quite the word I'm looking for.
Underappreciated.
My thing is being underappreciated. When I start to feel underappreciated, or like something is expected of me and I have to do that, is when I know I get bitter or my feelings get hurt and like I get upset.
Yeah.
But it's learning yourself too. Like, I know I feel underappreciated, and you know that I can feel underappreciated in general. And so like, you really go above and beyond to like, when I'm cooking, like, you'll come into the kitchen and you'll give me a hug. You'll be like, can I make you something to drink?
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it too, at least for people who are wired like you. Even if I'm not like cutting the vegetables or whatever.
I don't need you to do that.
Yeah, but me being like, do you want an iced tea? I have a feeling you'd like a tea. Do you want one?
It makes me feel so loved and so taken care of in the moment. Yeah.
Well, to put a bow on this stuff too, I wanted to ask this question. I don't know if you'll have an answer to it, so no pressure. But obviously, if it's not clear by now, you and I have a relationship that's not the normal gender roles, where you do the woman stuff, I do the guy stuff, or whatever. We know that. But can you see any benefits to that maybe we're missing out on because we're not like that? I can think of one if you want some time.
I have a kind of answer.
Sure. Kind of tell me that.
Kind of. And then I do want to circle back on the question I asked you in the beginning, which is, are there any differences between now and then? First marriage, second marriage. But I will say that when I quit my job, my 9 to 5 job, I like to be I was going to say provider, but that's not what I mean. I like to be a contributor. And it's hard for me to not contribute.
Right.
It's really, really hard for me. And so when I left Chick-fil-A, my 9 to 5, a big conversation that we had multiple times was like, will we be okay? Will we be okay financially? Are you going to be okay if I'm not bringing in any money? Not because I'm not bringing any money, but like, are you going to be upset with me, or like think less of me, or be like, you're not contributing, like in any of those ways. But it was the one time in, I think, our life that I was like, truly, you're going to be the breadwinner and the man that's going to bring in all the money, while I am going to be at home figuring out the house and figuring out what I want to do.
Right.
And it was the only, and if that makes sense, like, it was the only time that I was like, this is a gender normative.
Yeah. It's the only time that you didn't know when or where you were going to be making money.
But we kept saying, and you said it too, so you are contributing, like you're like ordering the groceries and making the dinner and doing all that stuff. And that's like a really big part of our life, and like keeping our world running. And I was really grateful for the quote unquote gender normative of like, yeah, you can be the person that'll make money. And in that season, not a lot of people know this, but you also told me you were like, because I was really scared of like, but will I fail and have to go back to doing that? And
Right.
you said to me, which I thought was crazy, but like so kind. You were like, I'll get a 9 to 5 before you do. Like I'll go get a job at like the grocery store or whatever if we have to, before like you go back and do that, which is crazy when I think about it now. But also it was like, he's like gonna like take care of it and like be the man and like make sure we're okay and like bring in all the money. We didn't need to do that because you make enough money outside of that and like we're totally cool. But I saw the benefit there because it gave me the ability and the freedom to step away from my job and find joy in something different, which look where we are now.
Yeah.
Just did a gig with NBC Universal.
Yeah. Can I speak to that a little
and all
bit?
that stuff. Yeah.
First of all, thank you. It's very sweet of you.
Yeah.
I've never heard you articulate that season quite that way.
Yeah.
It's kind of you to say that.
It meant a lot to me. I felt really taken
saying
care of and really loved and really seen as a person, an individual, and not as a necessarily a wife or a contributor. You were just like, I'm taking care of you, this person that I love.
I love that. There's a few things worth mentioning here. I always felt confident that we would be fine in terms of finances. Not because I'm like, we have so much, but we kind of structure and live our life in a way that isn't crazy.
Yeah. We don't,
we don't have a lot of huge reoccurring expenses and that kind of stuff. So like, I have this feeling like I know we'll be all right. And I live a very professional, in terms of my professional life and job, like a very, I breathe rarefied air in the sense that when I work, it brings in a significant amount of money for the amount of time invested. So I was like, if I have to grind and figure out more gigs, like I can do it. So I kind of had that confidence. Yeah. But the biggest confidence I had, other than just like you and I will always figure things out, the biggest confidence I had was, I think you could agree that you feel the same way, but I was feeling like you had definitely graduated from that part of your life professionally. Like, maybe other people listening can relate to this too. There's a feeling you get when you know that you've stayed in a place or space for too long and you've, I don't know, outstayed your welcome maybe. Yeah. Not necessarily like people like, get out, but you know inside of you, you're like, I've leveled up or past this. This is no longer where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. Not leveled up in the sense that I'm too good for this. Just like you get this feeling of I'm no longer in the place I'm supposed to be. And I think when you know that and you feel that push to leave, which you did, there's often an opportunity for whatever's next. Whether that's, I've seen it in relationships, I've seen it in businesses, but sometimes the comfort or security of what you have now is the thing that's holding you back from whatever is coming next, or the best thing that could fill that place. There's a friend of yours and an acquaintance of mine who has been in a relationship for a few years with a person, in my opinion, that doesn't treat them that well. They're not married or anything, doesn't treat them that well. And it was one of those things where that person was talking to you and they were like, it's just like, I don't want to be lonely. And like, I get that. Yeah. But what sucks is like the person who could really be a great fit for you is never going to come into your life in that way because the position isn't available and open. Yeah. Like you're holding that position hostage for the sake of short-term company and something. Yeah. So anyway, I think when you start feeling those that way in those areas of your life, like you got to at least evaluate it and assess it because you may be holding yourself back. So I was always confident when I knew that you were ready to move on. And I had that confidence too, that like, yeah, this isn't a good fit for you anymore. Yeah. We'll figure out what the next steps are. Yeah. And so I always had that confidence that we would figure it out. I wasn't worried about it. And truthfully, it's so cool to see where it is right now. Yeah. And we never know what the future holds, especially in our life with work, your work and my work. It's crazy.
I never would have thought that I would be where I'm at now. Truly, 100%.
Working with the biggest studios in the world. And
if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have been like, I don't know.
It's pretty incredible.
Bar and bat mitzvahs and weddings, which I do.
Well, what's crazy is like in your line of work, I know we're a little bit of a tangent right now, but still about our life and marriage, I guess. The line of work you're in right now, 2+ years into your business, you should only be doing bar mitzvahs and weddings. Like
100%.
How many people in your industry never even get out of that? You, based on your, your product, your work ethic, the person that you are, has fostered such incredible connections that you've done multiple world premieres, conferences, private events, things that involve things that aren't Diddy parties that involve celebrities but can't go into the media.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You've just like you've gone out there and done something very incredible, and it's very, very cool. Do you want to go back as we kind of button it up to your question of what was different between the marriages? Do you have anything specific?
Well, you had said you had some gender normative things, but you don't have to talk about that either. But
it's been a long time. I really had to think back to what it was. Like what?
I'm sorry, that was prior to the question. But let's ask the question. Do you think there are some things, like, is there anything that stands out to you that you were like, no, that was very different, and this was something that like I was told that was my responsibility because of X, Y, or Z that's changed?
Yeah. You know what's interesting? And this kind of goes back to the question I was asking you as well, or like, is there anything you can think of that would be beneficial to having a more normal marriage?
Yeah.
Or traditional marriage?
Yeah.
My first marriage wasn't traditional either.
Yeah.
Our kid's mom is, she's just a gender normative person, and that's something I've always really respected about her.
Yeah.
We've always seen ourselves to this day, even all four parents, just equal parents, equal contributors. I think one of the things that if a person was in a more traditional marriage, that might not happen in a marriage like ours, is that in a more traditional marriage, I'm willing to bet that more things get done and less things fall through the cracks because there's very clear boundaries and expectations.
Of course, yeah.
And that leads into, I think, the biggest difference in the two relationships was you and I somehow have non-gender normative, I'm so sorry for how often we're using those words, roles, but we also kind of know who does what.
Yeah.
I think the experience that I had before was we have non-gender normative roles, but we don't know who's really in charge of what. We were very young in our early 20s.
Yeah.
And it was much easier to drop the ball or forget things or all that kind of stuff. You were younger. You weren't sure who was going to do what in the marriage or who's good at what. And I think it was, I'm just cautious not to say anything rude because that's not my intention or my heart or even my experience.
You can speak freely. Yeah.
Well, it's just one of those things where they were both, I can't remember if it's egalitarian or I think it's egalitarian, less traditional marriages. I'm in one now with you, and it works really, really, really well, which speaks more to just the chemistry that we have. But I had a non-gender normative and egalitarian marriage before, and it didn't work out well.
Yeah.
And now both of us, all four of us, are in wonderful relationships. But anyway, it is a lot different. I think a lot comes down to, for me, not knowing what I could ask to get done or be done. And, it was my first time going from an individual person to someone who was in a couple, and I didn't know, and whatever I brought into it, my wife, whoever that is definitely going to do X, Y, or Z. So I won't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. It's interesting. I can talk about from the outside in because we've talked about it a lot. Mm-hmm. So I can say this. And I it's funny that you I don't really see any differences because I go
no. I see a lot of differences.
No. I know that. But I look at it and go, I do think that you did have some gender normative things. You were the one who brought in the money. That was the expectation.
Yeah, because she was in school at the time. Grad school.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I'm missing some stuff. I know, well...
I mean, you always talked about how, I understand that she did schooling and all that stuff, but even that was a choice to go to school and not get a job to get your master's degree and be my husband's just going to make the money and pay for everything. But then even when she did, I look at the beginning, I was going to say beginning part of that marriage, but that wasn't the beginning part of your marriage. I guess the end of your marriage, or at least what we've talked about is she had gotten a job. She was working 4 hours a day.
I guess.
Or something like that.
A couple days a
week. And so you were really the one who was bringing in the money.
That's true.
And she was really the one who was spending it.
Maybe. I don't know.
Which there's nothing wrong with that. Let's just be clear. But I think it's funny that you're I didn't know what I could ask of her because what we've talked about and how we are, both, you and I are both very much achievers.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that she's not an achiever, but I know that she's not a 3 on the Enneagram. She's a 4, which is an individualist, which is totally
Yeah.
It's great. It's just different. But you and I are such achievers that I think even in our daily life, we're like, you and I have been known to get lost in a Borderlands game for days at a time. And also we're like, we'll look around the house and be like, okay, like what do we have to get done? Or I need to send out an email. So like, we're going to take 30 minutes and like do work and then come back together. Or we're going to take 30 minutes and like clean the house and we'll come back. And I just don't think that was based off what I know, that was a relationship that you guys had together. That was like, we can achieve together too. It was like, you were like, I need to achieve and things are dirty and I need to get them clean. And she was like, well, I'm just like living my life and doing my stuff.
Yeah. That is a
and I'm not talking,
fair representation of the feeling that I have when I think back on it.
Yeah. I'm not trying to talk poorly or anything like that. Everyone's just different and everyone compliments each other differently. I think we compliment each other because we are both achievers and helpers at the same time. And so like, when you're like, it's really cluttered and I want to clean the countertops off. I'm not like, okay, we'll take care of it. I'm like, okay, well, like, how can I help?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Or more likely, we're like, when do you want to do that?
Yeah.
When should we do
let's
that?
Just take,
Probably tomorrow.
We tend to go,
Probably
let's take
tomorrow.
30 minutes and like, just do it right now. We'll get done. We need to get done. And I don't know that was a relationship that you had before.
No.
Because I think it was more of what you said earlier, which is an interesting thing to hear because when we've talked about your past relationship or even what I know of her now, again, and everyone's their own person, this idea of what you said of the therapist saying like, well, if you want something done,
if you want someone else to do
it,
something,
then you have to let them do it that way, or because you can't put it on me. And that is very much what I see her as now. And what you've explained to me is like, maybe something was bugging you about something being dirty or clean. And like, it would be okay, well, you can clean it, or like you can wait for me to do it, and I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it in the time frame that I'm going to do it in.
I will say that
I don't mean that in a mean way.
This is the first marriage that clean as you go was something that was done.
Yeah.
So it was a bit overwhelming at times.
It was
Oddly
instilled
enough,
into me by my mom.
One of the things that I have to let go of in our relationship is the way you load the dishwasher.
You hate it, don't you?
I'm like, lady,
what do I do wrong?
I do it the same way every time.
I do it the way you do it.
This is where the straws go.
I do
the
that
knives
too.
go right here in the first one, upside down. And there's usually a space for weird things like soup spoons.
I mean,
and then there's.
Do you want to know what it is though? The two in the middle are the two big ones.
I just want you to do it my way.
I have done it your way. The two big ones are spoons and forks.
Yeah.
And then you have the two on the outside of each side that are for straws and knives and random things. But I don't have I didn't know you had an order for that. I was like, they just go in where they go. Like sometimes the straws will go in the first one, sometimes they'll go in the back one, just depends on what's open.
It's true.
But is there a certain way you do it that you'd like me to change it to?
Oh yeah, but we'll talk about it off air.
Because I do load the dishwasher in the way that you load the dishwasher.
Because we do it in the most effective and efficient way.
Even in the new dishwasher,
unless you put a giant bowl in there and it screws the whole thing.
It does
the whole thing up.
But we still make it work.
I wish this was more gender normative in this relationship.
Doesn't matter. I hope you learned something about us. I don't even know. We love our life. We love what we do.
Well, it's true. And just to throw it out there,
just want to be thought of and supported. You do that well.
If you've made it an hour into this, what was supposed to be a 25 to 30 minute episode, hopefully you've gotten something from it. The biggest thing I can leave you with is the idea that if you were in a relationship, specifically a marriage, or even more so a marriage, but any relationship, and you're feeling like you're doing more than you want to or should or are comfortable with or whatever, see if you can offload some of that stuff in a way that's kind. Like, hey, would you mind doing X, Y, or Z this week? Or could you do that? Or if it's vice versa, you get to be a hero and be like, hey, I was just thinking it might take something off your plate if I did this, or this week instead of you doing it. Like, you have the opportunity to be a hero in your relationship.
Yeah. If I can
sure
add to that, the best thing I ever learned from church, and that's a big thing for me to say, is that if you don't set expectations, if you don't express what expectations you have, the other person can never live up to them. And I think that's something that in marriages, if you don't say like, hey, like the countertop being dirty is like a big deal for me, I can never help fulfill that. And I'm always going to make you frustrated because I'm not aware that that's something that you need. So like, it's okay to, and expectation can be like have a negative connotation at times. And that's not what I mean, but it's okay to share like, hey, like this is something that like I expect, or that is like best for my mental health
or important to me.
But if you don't ever put it out there, your partner can never help you with it. They can't read your mind.
The first therapist I had in my first marriage, shout out to Martha. She's wonderful.
Go, Martha.
She did. She goed all the way to Arizona, I think.
Oh.
She said it simpler than that. She just said, your partner can't read your mind.
It's true.
Which is ironic because I feel like as you and I talk more and more and more, and I know we talk so much compared to other couples just based on
All the
our
time.
experience. It's insane. I'm like, how did the other person in this relationship not know this? Because I told their spouse this. Like, how? What? How? I know we talk a lot, but I will say the more that you talk and connect with your partner, the more you are able to read their mind.
Yeah.
And understand that. Like, that's a common thing for us.
Oh, yeah.
But it's only because we've worked so much at communicating.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. Don't expect your needs to be met if you haven't expressed your needs.
Because they don't know.
Don't expect if you haven't expressed. There's something there.
There's something there.
Somebody do something with that.
And let us know at It's Hardly Working.
On
Anywhere.
TikTok and Instagram, carrier pigeon, whatever it is. But also, I will say this as a final thought. Yes, you can expect someone to meet your expectations if you haven't expressed them. But I think the most important thing in terms of that when it comes to life is no one is responsible for your happiness but you.
That's right.
Even if you communicate your expectations and your desires, at the end of the day, it is your responsibility to make those happen. No one can be expected to do it for you.
That's right.
So if you're not happy, that is a you problem.
It's a you
But
problem.
it's because of, yes, but you're still there. Whatever it is, make your adjustments. They don't have to be drastic, but the only person responsible for your happiness in life
is you.
is you. And we freaking love you. Thanks for listening.
And I love you.
That's what we used to do on the shows when we ended.
I
We're
know.
like, we love you and I love you.
I'm grateful for our marriage and our relationship and our
Me too.
friendship. Really.
Yeah.
I feel lucky.
Let's see if we can get to 6 years. We're like 5.5.
I know we're like almost there.
No, we're not
Let's
almost
see if we can
there.
get to 42 years. Like my parents.
Shout out to your parents. 42 years of
I
marriage.
know. Can you believe it? And they still love each other. They're still each other's best friends. It's crazy.
I told your parents, I don't know if we'll make it to 42
And
years.
my dad said, well,
Well, I don't
till
know.
death do you part.
Well, I think that's
Natural
going
or
to be my
otherwise.
problem. It's going to be my problem.
say that.
I don't know if I'm going to make it another 42 years.
Well, we'll make it as long as we do.
Yeah, we do.
And then you can haunt me as a ghost. And we'll
Looking
make it
forward
42
to
years.
that. It's going to be fun. Well, perfect way
But no
to
creepy
end.
journals.
Ooh, shout out to the last episode of Hardly Working. It's spooky season, baby. I hope you have a great time. Look, it doesn't matter if you're single, divorced, together. Just find something this week that makes you happy. If you're feeling like you're floating around, find something that brings you joy, purpose, whatever. Donate to charity. Do anything just to make your life better or to feel like you got something going on. We love you. I love you.
I love you.
And I hope you've enjoyed the first episode of the return to Hardly Working Through It. We will see you for another one this time next week. And until then, bye.
Bye.